Welcome to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast with your host, Brandon Seigel. I'm a published author, speaker, entrepreneur, and private practice strategist dedicated to transforming the way that healthcare functions. This podcast is all about empowering you to create the change you want to see. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I am your host, Brandon Seigel. In this episode, we're talking about designing your practice's total rewards statement. Are you exhausted from employees saying they don't understand, they're not getting competitive wages, why can't they get raises, I'm not paid enough, my work is not generating enough revenue or enough compensation with cost of living increases, all this stuff? At the end of the day, everything I described is you are losing the compensation perception war. So this episode, we're tapping into how to bring vision and communication to showcasing all of your compensation so that they see a value greater than a wage and a tax deduction. Your best employee just gave you 2 weeks notice to go work for a competitor paying $2 more. Have you heard that story? And now you're thinking, what do I do? Oh my gosh. The problem isn't your compensation. The problem is they don't understand your value and they don't understand everything they get. So you want to know something interesting? I once contributed $14,000 to a 401k for an employee. And at the end of the year, I said, how would you define the value you get from our organization? And they said, I think it's good. The pay is not the most competitive, but I find the work rewarding. I said, how are the benefits? It's good. I said, what do you feel is missing? Well, the schools. I go, well, first of all, the school employment is a totally different component. But I said, what is the most valuable benefit that you get from our organization? And they said, time off. I said, really? I said, okay, so let's walk through this. Why? Well, I get paid to take time off, all this stuff. I go, okay, so really what you're telling me is you would value more time off than more money. Well, I don't know. And I go, well, what if I told you that you're making more money than your time off? And they didn't understand that. So I actually showed them, I said, the value of your time off is $4,800 a year. I said, do you know the value of the 401k of just what I contributed to your 401k this year? And they said, no. I said, did you know we contribute to your 401k? I guess, kind of. I said, do you look at that? And they said, not really. I said, if I told you that we generated over 3 times the monetary value of your 401k, just in contribution, what would that mean to you? They're like, well, I don't know. So I broke it down. I showed them over $14,000 contributed. I said, you've had $58,000 that you never would have had. I said, would you rather have 3 months off making the same amount of money and nothing to show for it, or $55,000? You know the sad truth? They couldn't even put that into context. So the value is not money. It's doing nothing with their time. And I had to shape what is their value proposition. And once we dialed it in, we recognized by being able to create our value proposition, we were able to attract the right employees, people that really valued what we're doing. If you value time off, then go work in the schools, get your pension and retire. I want the people that want to work, that love to work. And when they see, hey, I just got $38,000 above my wages and benefits, oh my God, they feel like they have the richest comp structure they've ever seen. So the perception gap is costing you. 32% employees are underestimating. That's the number. Their total compensation, they're underestimating by a value of 32% when they only consider base salary. I want to say that again. 32% is the undervalued value of wage average because people do not recognize all the other stuff above their wages. So if I told them, what's the value of a 32% increase? How many people would go nuts? I'm like, well, you have 32% above your wage right now. Now, here's something you do need to recognize. Replacing a single employee can cost between 50 to 200% of their annual salary. Now, what I'm not saying is that doesn't mean give them all the money in the world they want, but it is hire smart. Now, interesting, 63% employees who say they would stay if they better understood their benefit package. MetLife ran that statistic. And I'm going to say that again. 63% is the number of employees who said they would stay longer if they understood their full benefits package. How are we building fiscal literacy? How are we helping employees build a life plan? How are we putting a monetary as well as a meaningful value on everything we offer? Now, I've said this before, but I'm going to say this in this episode. I offer an HRA with one of my companies, a $400 monthly contribution. Now, some people don't value that because they're like, well, I don't need that. So that's why I have a $2 wage benefit stipend equivalency that can get kicked in. I advertise the benefit, but then I show all the different monetary values of it. And I explain why that $400 value is actually more meaningful, worth more, and a better investment than taking the initial $2 wage increase, which most people think is the greater value. But I have to educate. I have to showcase. I have to explain why, what, how, when, and the way I'm going to build their future for them. I'm going to educate. I'm going to empower. I'm going to give you the tools, and we are going to build your retirement. We're going to build your family, your house, your ownership. You want to be a business owner? You will become a business owner. We will create the future you seek together. But this is what it takes. How do we do that? Get that identity, get that alignment. So when I create this visual total compensation summary, and one of the things that I've done, so I was fortunate enough to have one of the best graphic designers, I think, in the world work for me for many years. And one of the things that we helped to do is we created an infographic for each employee on their entire visual compensation structure. We visualized everything, the percentage of wages and benefits and all that. I showed how much money I expected them to generate, how much money the company would take, and how much of that pot of gold they're getting. And that helped, created transparency. So things we want to look at is our compensation. That is a base component. That's wages. That's your salary, your hourly rate, etc. We want to calculate the employer payroll taxes. We need them to understand that that is part of their cost and therefore their benefit. Health benefits, what is that value? Retirement contributions, what is that value? Paid time off. So something with paid time off, stop looping it into the base salary. Start giving it a predefined benefit. So if you're saying, hey, Brandon, I'm paying someone $80,000 and they get 8 weeks off, you need to subtract the PTO from that 80,000 and show them the wage without the PTO and the PTO separate. Most people are valuing PTO way greater than they recognize. So what if I told you, you can have $25,000 more a year with no PTO, or you can have 12 weeks off. People will take 12 weeks off. I'm like, you just left all this money on the table. And they're like, oh my God. Now, some people will say, I want that 20,000 and I want the PTO. And I'm like, okay, go live in Aruba, go have fun. But recognizing these things, we want to make sure we're visualizing professional development. We're visualizing the softwares, technologies, all the different tools they're getting. You give a MacBook Pro, that should be in their benefit breakdown. That is a value. Flexibility, what does that look like? Are there telehealth days? Are there schedule flexibility? Assign a market value. Put a monetary and a meaningful value in everything you do. And that's going to help create the visual identity of the role. And so the visual impact of seeing that this is a $100,000 package versus a $62,000 salary is really important. People work for money, but go the extra mile for recognition, praise, and rewards. How do we create the whole visualization of what this job represents? So here's your first action step. I need you to create a total reward statement for every employee on their hire anniversary. A well-formatted one-pager will work, or an infographic will work. Presentation matters. So if you need an idea of what a infographic would look like, you can message or email me. But I just need you to recognize that the more that we can create visual, we hear in stories, we see in pictures. How are we creating both? So what does that mean? So in my pictures, I showcase really visually what this looks like. What's the story? Hey, Jason, I want to talk to you, okay? Last year, you did incredible work. You made $75,000 in wages. You made another $40,000 in this. That's the story we're telling. That story, this is where it goes. But pictures help illustrate along with the story. So William James said the deepest craving of human nature is the need to be appreciated. We are trying to have wages show appreciation versus wages show exchange. Put value on the way that you invest in your recognition. Build compensation bands with clear advancement criteria. Let them see that progress. Ambiguity about advancement is one of the top reasons high-performing employees leave. Show that journey. I just wrote a job offer, and I broke down literally every 6 months of advancement and what correlates with that advancement for the first 3 years of employment. If your team doesn't know exactly what it takes to earn more, they assume the answer is nothing will change. We need to show them how to create more value so that they can receive the value they seek. So you may have it like staff therapist 1 is this range to this range. What is the criteria? What is the competency? Then level 2, level 3, level 4. One of the things we're working on at Growth Code Conference 2027 is we're going to have a workshop that actually shows you how to develop a career ladder for your clinicians with specifically the job description changes that occur and how to put that together. And so here are some key principles for your comp bands. Ranges, not single numbers. Allow for merit flexibility. Criteria-based, not tenure-based. Again, I do not like tenure. I like competency. Criteria is competency. Published and explained, every employee should know what's next and where it is, and then review that annually so that it keeps pace with the market changes. The business case for compensation is that 60% of employees are more motivated when they clearly understand what is required for them to earn more. 22% lower turnover with a defined compensation band. That is something SHRM has shown. And then $60,000 is the average exit cost for turnover of an occupational, physical, speech language pathologist. That includes recruitment, training, productivity, sign-on bonuses, etc. As Jack Welch says, clarity is the most important thing I can give as a manager. Clarity on performance, clarity on the future. So when we implement transparency, we are able to build a whiteboard of success for our people. It means being open with your philosophy, methodology, and structure. So opaque, nothing, employee guesses and compares and whispers. That is where most of you are. And you're upset when they talk about their wages. Show it. Johnny gets $30,000 more because Johnny earned it. And this is how Johnny earned it. The mistake you make is you give when they ask versus saying, this is what it is. Meet me here and you will achieve. Give it. Plan it out. Create it. Philosophy, transparency. Why we pay what we pay and what we value. That's what it looks like. Band transparency. Ranges by role, level, competency. Let your employees know their range. Full transparency. Everyone knows everyone's level and whatnot. That's rare. But we cannot prevent people legally from sharing their pay. The only reason why you're hiding pay is when you are making subjective choices. Now, someone comes in and says, I think I'm better than Jamie, and even though I don't qualify with that competency, I'm worth more. That's toxicity. You don't want that person in your organization. So why transparency pays off? Bottom line, pay transparency reduces the gender gap by up to 50%, increases employee trust by 26%. Employees at companies with pay transparency report 30% higher job satisfaction. Only 17% of employers proactively share compensation band information. Now, I want to be crystal clear. I love to show this because people's reactions show me who you are. Like in my job, I show that and I show 30 to 50 and this is what it takes. And then someone puts, they want 50 from day one and they don't even know how to tie their shoes. Good luck, go broke. You're not going to make it in this world. The point is that someone that wants the free ladder up is not your person. And you can define if they're your person by the way they respond to your transparency, your bands, and the way that you create the structure. So we know that the clinician turnover is high. We know that hiring great staff is hard. We have to show transparency so that we know they're up for the cause from day one. Build their roadmap. Build what it looks like for them to stay with you. And so here's some non-monetary benefits that retain top clinicians. So clinical supervision and mentorship may be a value. Flexible scheduling, continuing ed. Autonomy is a huge benefit. Team culture really does make a huge impact. And so here are 5 questions that I like to ask when I'm conducting my effective stay interviews. First thing, what do you look forward to most about coming to work each day? What are you looking forward to? What are you actually learning here? How are you applying it? And what are the skills that you're developing? Do you feel valued and recognized for your contributions? What would make your job more fulfilling? What might cause you to leave this organization versus what would keep you here? So when we're looking at recognition versus rewards, we're looking at like, how do we do shout outs in team meetings, peer recognition programs, milestone celebrations, handwritten notes, taking people, to a place where they feel recognized without it just feeling like a monetary achievement. And so employees want flexibility. They want growth. They want recognition. They want benefits quality. They want workplace culture. These are all things driving them. And so when you're looking at that, again, one of the things that I just want you to recognize is like a Q-Sarah. I implemented one. Why? Because what I showed is I can give them better healthcare at a cheaper cost than a group plan. The biggest misunderstanding is the value of a group plan. The only reason why a group plan brings value is if they have a pre-existing condition that won't be covered under an individual plan. We need to understand what's driving them to look for a group health plan, because a lot of the time they're paying 3 to 4 times more than they should, and they don't even recognize it. What if I told someone it would cost them $150 for an individual plan or $1,200 for a group plan? I've seen it firsthand. And the other thing that I see is that people don't recognize the cost of buying down the deductible. Sometimes the $7,000 deductible is a better financial investment than the $500 deductible. That's where fiscal literacy becomes a really crucial benefit to your organization. And so if we're doing annual comp reviews, we want to understand the revenue they generate, the performance, the market data, their goals, conducting what is realistic, what's not, giving them problems to solve so that they understand that whatever works for them must work for the company. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And so would they take food off their mother's plate that prevents their mom from thriving in order to feed themselves? That's what you have to figure out. You're the mothership. You're the opportunity. If they don't value that, then you don't want them in your organization. And so one of the things you have to be prepared for is that you're going to have difficult conversations. When someone asks for a raise and you can't afford that raise, you have to really look hard to see if they can fit in your organization. You have to identify what value they bring to someone else and whether it's worth a transition, whether it's worth a temporary hold, whether it's worth a different acknowledgement. Rectifying pay inequity is really part of your job. You need to look at that. And then understanding, don't negotiate, but provide what is the future and having them buy into the future, or understanding when they get off the ride with you. And so what I need you to look at is this week, I want you to compile a comprehensive list of every benefit and perk your practice offers. This month, I want you to develop your first total reward statement for an employee, detailing salary, benefits, development opportunities. And this quarter, I want you to schedule and conduct individual compensation review conversations with your teams utilizing the total reward statement. See how that helps foster culture, trust, and transparency. At the end of the day, we want to create a culture of exchange while optimizing the fulfillment and meaningfulness of the workplace. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, share us with your colleagues, your friends, and people you know, because together we can thrive, not just survive. Thank you for tuning in to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Exciting news. We're now available everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube or anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. So watch, listen, and reach out. If you love this episode, please drop a 5-star review. It truly means the world to me. Are you looking for more ways to elevate your practice? If so, now is your chance. Reach out, go to my website, or email me at brandon@wellnessworksmp.com. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.